1988. South Korea hosts the Summer Olympics. New Line Cinema sues Will Smith. And George H.W. Bush becomes the 41st President of the United States. Who Framed Roger Rabbit sweeps the box office. And an album by a small New York-based new wave band debuts to critical acclaim. Despite the album's success, the band would not release another album, would never tour again, and would break up only 3 years later. Surely the album couldn't be that bad, right? There must have been some redeeming factors. Here, let's pull up the first single. Blind. Please make it stop.
It's taken you all over the world. Somebody over there said if I had my chance, I'd record in England. Another lady said France. Have you been to those two countries?
Yeah, we've been to both of those.
Were you well received?
I thought so.
Blind comes from Talking Heads' 1988 album Naked. The band traveled to Paris to work with French musician Wally Badereau. The band had known Badereau from their time recording at Compass Point Studios in the Bahamas, but decided that his knowledge of the French music scene would help the band find a new sound.
I mean, we worked with, through a musician and producer, a guy named Wally Badereau. He connected us with a lot of local musicians, and there's great local clubs there where you can hear all kinds of music.
They also brought in producer Stephen Lillywhite to guide the project along.
Rock stars I've beaten at table tennis, all the Talking Heads, all the Pogues, and pretty much anyone else I've ever produced.
We brought on Wally to help us find musicians to supplement the quartet. He also found us our studio in Paris called Studio Deveau. It was in a section of Paris where a lot of African people live. It was an old movie theater with the seats taken out, so part of the floor was still slanted. It was enormous. They began with an absolute blank slate, bringing no new song ideas into the session, and worked out all the music in the studio through jam sessions, similar to the way they developed their first few albums. The vocals were added later, with David Byrne improvising lyrics over the tracks in a studio in New York until they found the right fit. The entire vocal was written improvisationally, with those in the control room making suggestions as to which parts worked, and David memorizing them on the spot. The only lyric that came from that improvisation was the chorus, in which he sang, blah, 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 blah. His head moved like a Muppet, and we all watched, fascinated, as if he were a bug on a pin under a microscope. Jonathan Demme, you should have been there with your camera. Speaking of which...
And welcome to the new music. I'm Lori Brown.
And I'm Denise Donlin. And there's a new Talking Heads album available. It's called Naked. I've heard it.
I've heard it too, and I love it.
Well, you would. Lori Brown is a Talking Heads fanatic.
Unfortunately, there's no new video to accompany the album Naked, and so they're not doing any television interviews to support the album.
Yet.
Webster's dictionary defines wedding as the fusing of two metals with a hot torch.
Get out of here. Soon. We open on a political rally where the crowd seems to enthusiastically respond not to serious policy debates, but solely to empty rhetoric and spectacle. Thank God this is solely a fiction. But this candidate is no ordinary candidate. No, it's a horrifying wrench with an awful gummy human mouth. Oh God, please stop showing it in close-up. Hey, you guys might want to check your angle here. This filter is so disturbing. I want to know the editing process that brought us this. So what do you guys think? You're fired. And with good cause. How quaint, when we thought that the worst thing that could happen at a political rally is that people got too excited about babes with radios. But seriously, guys, keep it in your pants. You're embarrassing yourselves. Say it, sir. Don't spray it. Aw, man. Now how am I going to listen to all those choice Mexican radio stations?
I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy.
I couldn't tell you why, but I feel so uncomfortable that there's a child here. No, Timmy, don't do it! There is no amount of money that would get me within 1,000 miles of this mouthy, drooling wrench. You know those old-timey reel machines they would have in the back of penny arcades, where you'd put in a coin and it would show you a flip book of a city street or a county fair or something like that? That's the vibe I'm getting off this thing, but instead of a scene from the 1890s, it's this creepy, ghostly image of David Byrne.
And Newman and I are reversing the peepholes on our door so you can see in.
But then anyone can just look in and see you.
Our policy is we're comfortable with our bodies.
Someone needs to go full Manchurian Candidate on this wrench. Please don't throw it at the baby. I so desperately want to figure this video out, but there's so many different things happening. I'd say that it's a simple parody of political conventions where showiness and pandering to voters overpowers any kind of actual substantial messaging. But why have the candidate be a gross, gummy wrench? And discovering the ghostly band in the podium, what does that have to do with anything? Are they controlling the wrench somehow? Writing its messaging? What does it mean?
And now? All right, that's it.
David, relax. Relax. Remember to look up into the camera.
The single got to number 39 on the Billboard Mainstream Rock chart, and the album got to number 19 on the Hot 200, but unfortunately, success would not last for Talking Heads. The band had already been doing their solo projects for years, but things had ramped up by 1988. David was writing his own songs and composing film scores. Jerry began his own solo career and producing other artists. And Tina and Chris performed with their side band, the Tom Tom Club, so it only seemed natural that the band would drift apart while being torn in so many different directions. But I doubt that any of the members truly expected the band to break up.
The Talking Heads were last seen out in public together on the 1988 album Naked, but rumours of divorce persist and Jerry Harrison is used to fielding them.
Everyone asks the question about what's going to happen with Talking Heads, and I don't have any answer other than there is no plans at this point.
The group hadn't toured since the 1984 Stop Making Sense tour, but they compensated by a regular album output. 3 albums and an appearance in David's 1986 film True Stories meant that the band was kept very creatively busy. However, in the 3 years after Naked, the band put out no new music together. Finally, in 1991, David announced that the band would split up. In true David Byrne fashion, he never consulted the other 3 members of the band. David refused to tour. That's why the album didn't do any better than it did. I think it was a gold record, but it should have done much better than that. Tina and I did a promotional tour where we went around talking about the record. We did what we could, but David's heart just wasn't in the band anymore. The directors, Annabelle Jankel and Rocky Morton, had actually worked with members of the band before, co-directing the Tom Tom Club's Genius of Love video. They also directed some videos for Rush and Elvis Costello, but their best-known work? The duo co-created creepy sci-fi character Max Headroom, directing both the TV movie and subsequent series.
Oh, Max, nice to be here. Now then, David Byrne, imaginative, innovative, a respected force, too, and a milestone in visual arts and a true Renaissance man. But enough about me.
Oh, and they also directed the 1993 Super Mario Bros. Movie, but I'm sure they'd like me to skip over that part. I'm kind of sad that this video was a big part of Talking Heads' swan song. The other single, Nothing But Flowers, is the better known of Naked's 2 singles, other than a 1991 single debuting on a Wim Wenders film soundtrack. These are some of the last images people got of one of the most innovative and celebrated bands of the era. A sloppy, slobbering, power-hungry wrench, and the disturbing, ghostly visage of David Byrne superimposed over himself. We had a really good time making this record, especially when we were in Paris. It was just a great pleasure. We hadn't done anything in a while, and things went so well that it gave the rest of the band hope that there would be more. And why shouldn't there have been? We were, in my opinion, reaching another level in our sound. Sadly, it didn't work out that way, but it was fun while it lasted.
I confess I have spent time on YouTube looking at my own bands. It's really fun. And
please don't come after me, Chris France. Thanks for watching, everyone. I always appreciate it when people like and share my videos, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Do you know a terrible music video you'd love to see me cover? Drop it in the comments, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. Mark my words, you will never hear me say a bad word about Talking Heads. You have broken the sacred oath. Your honored vows have been for naught. We have been washed in the blood of empires. The seal is broken, and the minions of hellfire shall reign supreme upon the land. The devil's sovereignty shall be unmatched, and his realm shall know no bounds. For 3 months.